In just a moment, you are about to listen to a conversation I had the privilege of having with Sean Garner, who is a high level entrepreneur. He is a kingdom builder through and through. He's a husband, he's a father, and I am grateful to call him a friend. And in this conversation, we talked about why most people don't execute on their ideas and goals and dreams. And he gave us a lot of practical tips, a lot of practical strategies, but most importantly, he gave us principles that we can use today to really move from talking about our ideas to actually doing something with them. And so, what I want to invite you to do is to lean into this conversation, take notes if you're able, and get everything you possibly can, because I believe this is going to bless your life. And if you want to go deeper, you can download the Vision Builder Kit so that way you can create your vision. And with all the principles and strategies that Sean shares, it will be a added bonus to your life. And so, with all that being said, let's get into this conversation I had the privilege of having with Sean Garner. Well, Sean, it's good to have you on the Dream Lifestyle Podcast, my friend.
Man, it's good to see you again, brother. We had a couple months away, but we're back, and so it's good to see you again, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So first of all, I'm really excited because I know that all that you are doing, all that you've built, I'm really excited to learn more about your story and also just learn more about a lot of the mindset shifts, a lot of the practical things that you've done, because what you've built is very significant. And I think what's really cool about it is, of course, in a day and age where you see all the big time YouTubers and big time gurus and everything like that, like you're just a guy who's like, listen, I don't need all that, but I'm doing the great work. And I really love to just hear your background and how you think that through. So we have a tradition here on this show where we pretty much just ask our guests, when did you start building your dream lifestyle?
Yeah, I love the question. And I would say that the building started, like, obviously, like, foundationally as a childhood with how your upbringing and everything was. But for us, it would definitely be whenever we started this entrepreneurial journey. And so it was about 15 years ago. Started out in the fitness industry. So I was a firefighter paramedic, and we decided that we wanted to be entrepreneurs because honestly, we didn't have any kids. And my wife said, I'm at home too much being a loser playing video games, and you need to get another job. And I was like, well, I'm liking this fitness thing. So what if we open up a gym? So we ended up opening up gyms and doing well with it, closing them, opening more. And that led the journey for creating what we are doing now. But that dream has been slapped around a few times, and it's in some dramatic pivots to where you thought you were going one way, and then you ended up some completely different way where you're at now. But it's 100% everything that we have, man, is 100% God. And I tell my wife, Courtney, that sometimes I have like these matrix moments where I'm like, man, God, why did I go through all this stuff? Or why did I have this one random thing that I just did one time? Like, what was even the purpose of that? And sometimes I have these matrix moments to where it's just like, you see how everything just now fits together, and you're like, I get it now. So as those moments and stuff have happened, man, the dream's been pivoting, but it's just still walking it out each day in obedience.
Man, that's awesome. I want to go at the very beginning what you said, right? Where for you, building the dream lifestyle is entrepreneurship. Now, you and I both know not everyone is cut out for entrepreneurship. No. And you also know, I'm certain, the numbers and the statistics and the percentages of even successful businesses, and you've been doing it now for 10 plus years. When you first started the journey of entrepreneurship, was that really on your mind, like in terms of like really understanding what you were signing up for?
Not at all. So whenever we went down the road of entrepreneurialism, I was a firefighter paramedic, and this was just supposed to be a hobby that paid for itself. So foundationally, though, I grew up, father worked for, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked for the city. So we had very, very like lower class upbringing and everything. Didn't grow up around like wealth or anything like that. But my father always, I think this is one of those things that just kind of stuck with you, even though he wasn't. He always spoke extremely highly of entrepreneurs and small business owners. And he would always put down things like going to college. He's like, you don't need to go to college. Like, no, like some of the most successful people in the world, these business owners, they didn't go to college. They learned, they figured it out. And so that was always kind of, I think, ingrained in me subconsciously, even though I didn't see that like modeled out. I was just told it. Like it's very much in some ways, the upbringing was like Robert Kiyosaki's like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Like, I was seeing like the poor lifestyle, but he had some things that he would say that I was like, okay, like, well, why don't we do those things then? So that was kind of, I think, foundationally in me as part of my upbringing. But whenever I started, my wife and I started like opening up gyms and doing our own business for the first time, the goal was just, man, it would be a really cool thing is if I had a place that was free to work out, that my friends could come hang out with me, and it just paid for itself. Like, that was the goal. The goal was never like, hey, let's build something, let's go be our own bosses and everything. Because my wife and I are very much entrepreneurial now. We own multiple businesses. We don't work for anyone else. But when we first started doing this stuff, like, she was not like that at all. It was very much like, she grew up in, like, her mom is like a C-suite executive, like in HR. And so it's like, you go to college, you get a great job, you work for a good company, you work your way up. And so that was kind of her mindset. And it was interesting how God's kind of like molded us now to like correcting all my flaws and like bringing her into this entrepreneurial mindset. But yeah, that was not the goal. I wanted just a hobby that paid for itself. Because in my mind, I was going to retire as a fire captain. I was going to put,
Wow.
20, 30 years in the fire service. And then I would just have, like, most firefighters have little side businesses. And that was just the goal for this, is to have a side business that didn't like drain our finances. But then as it grew and we discovered entrepreneurialism, I started kind of seeing like, I like working for myself a lot more than other people. And I realized some of the giftings and the things that had always been kind of stirring inside of me start to have clarity on why I thought the things that I did, why maybe I did some of the things that I did. And it was because, like you said, like, not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. It very much is a calling. And as I started walking out, owning a business, I started understanding, well, this is my calling. This is my purpose, is to be an entrepreneur.
Man, that's amazing. You said so many things I want to pull out. It sounds to me, if I'm synthesizing what you said, that even from the beginning of your entrepreneurship journey, you were very like service focused. Now, at the time, it was kind of like casual, like, hey, wouldn't it be cool to have a gym that I can invite my friends to and it pays for itself? Like that, like as casual as that sounds, right? At least to us now, knowing all that we know, that's still like a service focused, others focused mindset where it's not, to your point, right? Not building anything grand. It's just like, hey, what if we created a space where the people we love and care about could come work out for free and it's taking care of itself, right? It's not a burden. I think that's really key. And I want to pull that out because I think at the ground level of any entrepreneur is the fact that you have to be others focused. It is the fact of, sure, there's money, sure, there's contracts, sure, there's, negotiations and all that. But at the heart of it, there has to be a service focused mindset. And one of the things that you were talking about too is that as you walk this path of entrepreneurship out, you said that you started discovering gifts, discovering calling. And I love that you said that, because one of the things that I would say about entrepreneurship is that entrepreneurship is more self-discovery than it is building a business. Yeah. And so what giftings, what did you really discover about yourself in that building process of building, just at the time, gyms, and now all that you're doing?
Yeah, I would definitely say one of the big things is discipline and grit. Like, growing up, I was extremely lazy. I was a horrible student. I hated reading. I did the bare minimum of what it took to get by, because I was like, my old mentality used to be like, well, I could work really hard at something, and let's say studies, I could work really, really hard and maybe get an A or like a high B, or I could just do the bare minimum and still get a C, maybe a low B. So I put the effort in. Like, that was my mindset of the thing. I was not athletic or anything to where I was involved in any type of like fitness training or discipline and like building good self habits at all. It was literally do the bare minimum. That was the thing. When you have a business, your business doesn't care how hard you work. Are you producing a result? And so you can work really, really hard. Guess what? Doesn't mean you're going to make more money. On the flip side, like when you're W-2 job, you're working for another company, man, you can work really, really hard and people still give you a raises. You still get like cost of living raises each year. So you might get a bonus and stuff. Doesn't matter how hard you work, or it matters the result that you're producing when you're owning your business. You eat what you kill. And so for me, those things started being forced functioned into my life. And as that started happening, it almost felt, as weird as it sounds, those habits that I used to be extreme opposite of started feeling more natural. And so I was like, oh, this is how I should have been doing it the whole time. I mean, it's like the You know, it's like just when somebody comes to Christ, it's like your eyes are open and you're like, oh, this is who I really am. As I started doing this, I was like, oh, I always thought I hated reading, but I actually love reading books. Like I always thought I liked sleeping in, but actually like kind of waking up early and getting my day started. And as I was walking these things out, I started understanding like, this is really who I'm supposed to be. I had just done the complacent version my whole life, just kind of going through the motions instead of actually like trying to, like you said, discover who I really am and what I'm really supposed to be doing. And I think that's what most people do is they just get in complacency. They think average. They think there's no way I can get that much better. But at the same time, well, it's probably not going to get that much worse. And they live in this state of mediocrity and complacency. And then they get through, you know, that's why they have like the midlife crisis and then all of these different things because they're like, man, like, I just feel like I should have been doing more. Well, because you had more inside of you, but we just lived in this complacent state that never got pulled out of us.
Man, that's really good. So you learn discipline and grit. Your mindset used to be a lazy one. We'll just kind of blanket term. What was the, I'd love to hear more about the shift. I'd love to hear more because did that shift happen because you were just doing the good work? Did that shift happen because you interacted with fear? Like, talk with us about that shift.
Yeah, it was force functioned in stages. So the very first stage that happened, well, and both of those stages happened in 24 hours. So what happened was I was working as a firefighter. This was just a side job. So when you're working as a firefighter, you work 10 days, you work 24 on, 48 off. So you're only working like 10 days a month. And so we got to a standpoint on the business to where it had grown pretty significantly. And so we were like, okay, we have a decision to make. We either have to hire somebody full time as a gym manager because it had gotten to that level, or I leave the fire service and let's jump full into being an entrepreneur. My wife was finishing her master's of nursing at the time. So she was working as a nurse part-time and stuff. And so it's like, okay, do we do this? We didn't have any kids at the time. So we're like, yeah, let's do this. Let's go all in. And so wife and I had a real talk like, hey, you can't be lazy. Like you have to do this if you're going to make it work because you're leaving a great job. Like people work and train for years to get on the fire service. I worked at a very competitive fire department here in the area that had amazing pay, amazing benefits. Like the trajectory, the plan was there. So if you're going to do this, you got to make it work because you eat what you kill. So I was like, yep, I got it. Let's do it. So I was like, okay, that was the first little switch. Like I said, this all happens in 24 hours. That night, I had my last day at the fire department, and we go all out to celebrate and everything. All right, we're doing this. We're full-time entrepreneurs. Like we're hanging out with our friends and stuff. And my wife is like eating like crazy. And somebody like made a joke like, oh, what are you, pregnant? And then she goes home like as a joke to me. Wouldn't it be funny if I was pregnant? Because you just left all of your benefits in the fire service. And then sure enough, she was pregnant. And so both of those things happened of like, all right, we're full-time entrepreneurs. We have to make this work to where now, and by the way, you're going to be a dad. And so that right there was the biggest flip I would say that I had of that instantly flipped something inside of me is like, nobody's coming to save you. Like you got to figure and make this thing work out now because now it is before it was like, yeah, I had this, it would have cost like out of pocket cost, like $100 to have a kid at the fire service. You have stupid, amazing benefits like for health and everything. And now it's like $1,000 a month for just self-employed health insurance for a pregnant wife with a kid on the way. So it's like, you've got to make it work at that point. And so that was the big switch for me to where I would say I've had several of those slap in the face switches in my life. And that was the first, or I should say the second one that really kind of woke me up and got me disciplined. The first one was even before that, probably like 5-6 years before that. I told you, my wife and I, we've been married 22 years now. We got married at 19. And so the first couple of years we got married, she's working, going to nursing school. I'm at home playing video games when she gets home with like a 12-hour shift. And she's like, if you want this marriage to work, you need to step up and man up. And you need to start working harder to provide for the family. And so that was the first big slap in the face growth moment. But I've had these little ones or big steps each time to do it. But that's what's gotten me started.
I'm wondering, is there a connection between the way in which your father sowed seeds into you about entrepreneurship and just kind of, we'll say, a better life, a different life, in your ability to kind of lean into these shifts and pivots and things like that? Because most people don't necessarily encounter those kind of conversations and those kinds of pivots like that fast to immediately
Yeah.
just embrace like, well, no one's coming to save me. Now we have to make this work, right? Most people take like 3-4 months before they're like, okay, I got to do this, right? Is there a connection between the two?
Yes, but probably not what you'd think. So I love my parents, but my father will even say this: if I can't serve as a good example, I'll serve as a bad example. And so, like, even though like he said all the right things, like even now looking back, I'm like, I didn't. But you were always like he was reading entrepreneurial magazines, always listening to like seminars and learning stuff, but there was never any action behind it. And I think so because of that, the thing that I learned from it is it had nothing to do with your level of knowledge that you have on the subject, your ideas that you had. It came down to the execution and the drive. So he will even self-admittedly say like he has no drive to do those kind of things. Lots of ideas, but no execution. And I think because I was like, okay, you can have all the ideas and training and go to seminars, courses, stuff like that. But if you don't do anything, it doesn't matter. So what would it look like if I just did the opposite? And so like it's just pattern kind of, I would say pattern recognition. And that's, to me, I think one of the superpowers and stuff that I have now with like the marketing agency is being able to look at data and trends and stuff and analyze what's working and just seeing patterns. Like, that's not science, like rocket science, like just do what's working. And so because I saw the result of having all of the ideas, but not executing on it, I think that was the thing, is like, okay, I know what not to do. So let's try the extreme opposite and let's see what happens. And so that's where I flipped over to like, went from the lazy to I don't know if this is a thing. My wife would probably say it is overly disciplined and overly structured and overly things because of the extreme opposite. Like I am personally definitely a person of extremes. It's very hard for me to do something just kind of. I'm either all or not. I'm either eating the whole cake or I'm weighing and measuring every single thing that I eat. Like it's very much extreme. So for me, that's kind of what helped me lock in, is I had to go the extreme opposite way. But I think it's because I saw almost the opposite modeled out.
Man, that's powerful, because I think, for a lot of people, whether they're beginning their building journey of, well, again, business, their life, career, whatever, it's important that we are able to just at least, I guess the term would be like eat the meat, spit out the bones, where it's, hey, even though we might not have seen a good example, at least we see what not to do. And I think that language of pattern recognition, I think is really, really helpful for every single person listening, where it's like, hey, get good at recognizing patterns and then deciding and assessing, is this the direction? Is this going to trend? Is this going to take me to where is healthy? Is this going to take me to where I'm able to handle my responsibilities and everything like that? I'd love to ask you about, we talked a lot about pivots and changes and things like that. Tell me about a time in your entrepreneurship early on where you were kind of really faced with fear. Like talk with me about just your relationship with fear.
I mean, I would say there's been multiple pivots. Like we've talked about one of the businesses, and that was very, very early, like 15 plus years ago and everything. Now, since then, I'm obviously out of the fitness industry and we own several different businesses. So I think with each one of those, there's become a fear aspect. And there's been some really big dark moments, and then some are just like little things. But I'll give you some examples, but I'll tell you the principle that I've learned from it is it's just like growing and strengthening in anything. Because if you start to understand and compound the little small victories, when you come up to something that is would crush some other people, because you've kind of got all that grit and resilience built up of the little things that you've overcome, it's not really that big of a deal. How I put that practically is, my wife and I, we've been married 22 plus years, gone through some horrible marriage challenges and struggles and stuff like that. So when we come up to other things, like we've had, after we've gone through some really difficult marital situations and stuff, we've had cross-country moves with 3 kids and stuff. That might crush and cripple some people and be so stressful. But for us, we had so much grit built up to this point. It's like, that's not that big of a deal. Like we got 3 kids and 5 businesses and everything now. It's like, that might crush some people, but we've got so much grit building us up to this point. So when it comes, it's not as big of a deal. So with fear, for example, there is always like those little, I think those pivot points for me, I didn't always handle them correctly. So there were some opportunities to where like I just gave, it's easy to talk about some good things of like, hey, you had a challenge. Wife corrected you. You stepped up. You were more disciplined. Hey, you're going to have a kid. You're a solopreneur. You stepped up and then you did the right thing. But I didn't always do that. So there was, we ended up selling that business. And so I thought I was the man. Like we built up this business. We were one of the largest, the gym franchise that we are part, our license that we're part of is something called CrossFit, which people probably heard is super popular. We had one of the largest CrossFit gyms in our entire state. And I was like, man, I'm the man. I built this thing up. Let's go now, take all of that money. And now let's go build a bigger gym in a bigger city. Cause I'm the gym whisperer. I'm going to make this thing blow up. And man, that ended up being the biggest like pain point, hurt, struggle, downfall of our personal lives and our marriage. Like it took me to the ultimate bottom blow where I got sued by the people that I partnered up with. I almost lost my wife and my marriage and my kids. Like everything was at a complete downhole. And to where I thought that like everything was over. Like, God, you don't want anything. Like I'm cursed. Like I'd done everything wrong. And that personally is where I had the biggest shift of my life when I was at that lowest low of my life to where, I saw for the first time who I was in God's eyes, and it helped me to, I would say, start to unlock the true growth trajectory of where I'm at now. So the rest of the time, like of my life up to like the first 10 years of our marriage and everything together was me stumbling, like going through a maze and hitting these little like, well, okay, oh, can't go this way. Nope, can't go this way. Hitting these little walls. And you'd have these pivot points to try something different. But when I hit, unfortunately, when I hit the lowest of low, it's like the maze opened up and there's a clear line of exactly where I needed to go and where I needed to be. It wasn't a straight walking path. There's hills, there's walls and stuff that you need to go over. It's still going to be difficult, but now I at least had clarity on the direction that I was going. And I truly believe it's because I saw him and who I was in him, to where that started unlocking things to in all the steps. So after we had that incident, that's where we ended up moving, cross country move. We got out of the situation and everything started all over in a brand new place of Miami, Florida. And that was for us a complete reset and growth of everything spiritually, financially, relationally. And that's where I started to, one, not only grow closer to God, we repaired and restored our marriage, but that's where I started to have, on the flip side of everything, my rich dad moment. Because I grew up one way, hearing one thing, and then we moved to Miami. I was still working in fitness, but I was just working as a personal trainer. But I was at the number one gym in Miami in South Beach. And I was literally training people that are worth 100 million to a billionaire status. And they're giving me business advice as I'm training them. So that's where I started seeing the exact opposite, to where that's where we started having a lot of these big mindset shift jumps of thinking like entrepreneurs, thinking like business owners, and just doing things differently. But it was those fear moments. I didn't overcome them all. Like they broke me. But for me, like we've had good ones and stuff now. Like, so but we built up that grit and everything in it, where now when it comes across, like it's different, but it's easier to overcome because the foundation's been set.
Man, you said so much there. Like I appreciate it. No, I really do appreciate it, because like I really resonate with that. Like I really resonate with, in the lowest of lows is where I not only saw who I am, but I saw how God sees me. And it was at that point I was able to actually get a clear direction as to, okay, this is where I'm supposed to go. And of course there's going to be hills, there's going to be challenges. Like I resonate with that. And I think that's why, the low moments, the darkest of moments, they have this odd beauty to them. Like, and I don't know if that's like, I would describe it as that. There's an odd beauty to it. Not when you're in it, because of course you just feel like everything that you felt like you needed, everything you thought you were, is just being decimated, right? Everything you cared about, everything you thought that you were leaning on is gone. But then you only see the one who matters, and that's God. And then he just kind of really shines a light. And it's in that shining of the light, you're like, okay, let me figure out how to pick up these pieces, right? Whatever's left. Like, let me pick up whatever God has allowed me to even keep. And it's from there, you're like, wow, I see now how all this is connecting, back to what you had referenced earlier, where it's like, I see all this is connecting now. Oh,
Yeah.
who knew, right? And I think even just with you mentioning how you moved to Miami and yet you were working as a trainer, but like who you're training and what they're saying and the conversations and all that stuff, it's no surprise. And I just appreciate you sharing it because, oftentimes we never get to hear successful entrepreneurs share the lowest of low moment. Like we never, of course we hear the highs of highs. We did this in revenue. Oh, we got new team. Oh, we did this. We hear that, but it's like, those are the phases that actually drive, at least is that safe to say, like, because of your experience and how you handled those past seasons, and of course it wasn't perfect, but those lessons you got is like what is currently driving you today. And that's something that, if I were preaching about it, I'd say that's a well that never runs dry. Like is that safe to say?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that'll preach. But what I would, the other part, like, to keep going on the story and everything too with it, is when we moved to Miami, I thought I was done being an entrepreneur. So we had owned these businesses. So in my mind, in the world's eyes, I thought I had crushed it, and then I got crushed. So I started a gym from nothing. We grew it to the largest one. I bought out my competitor, so I owned 2 gyms, ended up selling them, and then took that money, and I was like, man, I'm the man. Opened up this other gym. It failed miserably, lost everything, got sued, almost lost my marriage, all the things. I was like, okay, I tried the entrepreneurial thing. I obviously just got lucky on that one thing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go work for somebody the rest of my life. And so when we moved to Miami, it was a restart for us in every area. But my goal was just to go there, work really hard as a personal trainer, work my way up, and all of these things happened. Went there, worked really, really hard as a personal trainer, very high-end luxury gym, ended up working out to being a general manager for them. So whenever they started opening up their second, third location, I was their general manager. I was hired, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I thought that was kind of my sweet spot of like, okay, I'm a really, like, I started even telling myself this thing, I'm a really good number 2. So like, I don't need to be the man, but I'm really good. And I just started telling myself, and I remember hearing that sometime is like, it sounded right in the world's eyes, but like there's something in me is like, no, but there's more. And that I couldn't ever, like, it was obviously a sore spot in our marriage for a long time to bring up financially because of what happened and everything. But I always had that thing in me of like, I really want to own my own business again, because I still had that thing inside of me, even though I was making amazing money as this general manager for this luxury gym. I still like had something in me. So I started these little side projects with coaching and consulting, and just helping other fitness professionals to do online marketing, create online products and stuff. And that's whenever I started to kind of get some traction and stuff on some other things, to where we had some other good moments of wake it up and keep going, some of those other pivot moments and everything. But yeah, whenever we moved, I thought I was done. And that's kind of what led us on a little bit of the path of where we're at now.
Bro, that's incredible. Like that's incredible because, again, making that big of a decision to reset, that playing in your mind of like, you know what, I'm a really good number 2. Like, I definitely see how it's like, that makes sense, right? Like that sounds like, who would be wrong for saying, no, I'm a great number 2. So I'm gonna master that, everything.
Yeah.
But to then still be aware enough and be honest enough with yourself to say, there's more in me than that. Like, being a number 2 is great, but there's more in me than that. And so how you mentioned that's kind of, I'm assuming, how you got into online marketing and everything like that. Yeah. Talk with me about even that transition to where now, obviously, that's like the main thing that you're doing. Like, what was that process like? Take me from A to B.
Yeah. So it was another kid. So I was working. We had our 2 daughters. These kids, they'll talk about pivots. That'll happen. So we had our 2 daughters. We were living in Miami, making great money, working at this gym. My wife she'd finished her master's. She's working as a nurse practitioner, running another medical clinic and stuff. Not entrepreneurs. I had this side coaching consulting thing that I was doing. And so because of that, there was a large popular fitness app that saw what I was doing. They knew this. I was in Men's Health magazine. I had all this online fitness stuff. And so they saw that, but then they also saw me teaching other people the strategy. And so, okay, this guy knows the industry. So they came to me and they said, hey, I had done some stuff on their app before. They said, hey, I know you're on the app and everything, but how would you like to talk and teach some of the other people on the app how to do what you do, like the digital marketing side, because they might have millions of followers, but they don't know how to monetize it. Like, well, yeah, what would that look like? So anyway, we ended up talking about that, and it was another pivot point decision. I went to my wife, was like, okay, like I'm making really good money right now, but I'm working like 70 plus hours a week. Like you're there from like 4:30 a.m. to about 7:30 at night, 5, 6 days a week, like crazy. And this other job, like about half the amount of money, but it's 100% remote work from home. And so we go out to dinner, and we're talking it through. And she's like, well, I think I know what decision you need to make. And she's like, you need to be at home more because we're having a third baby. Okay. And so I guess that makes the decision for us. And so ended up going in. And it was kind of the same thing as it was the same, but extreme, almost opposite of the first child that we had, our oldest daughter, Hadley, is because before it was like the same kind of situation. You got to make this thing work again. But this time I had somewhat of a different plan because one, I am going to work for another company, but this other company wanted me to keep growing my coaching and consulting business as well, because that helped funnel what they were doing. So anyway, that just led to more and more growth with that company, working remote, had the third baby, COVID happened, and the world got crazy. So we were living in downtown Miami, Florida at the time. Beautiful place, looked over the water, loved it, thought I was going to die in Miami. I loved it. Then COVID happened. It got super crazy there. And so we ended up moving back to Oklahoma. And during that time, we had several things. One, my wife was working for a really good company. And I was like, man, we don't need to leave. Like, you got a great job. And she's like, Sean, I've got something in my gut that tells me that I'm about to get fired. I was like, no, like you run one of their practices. Like that's never going to happen. She's like, I just feel it. I just sense it. Like high performer employee, no reason for her to be terminated. But then during COVID, they used that as a reason to decide to let her go. And so she's now unemployed. I'm working for this fitness app, doing my coaching consulting. We decided to move back to Oklahoma. And during that was a chain of events of a lot of things of where my wife ended up deciding to open up her own medical practice on the kitchen table as we were living with my mother-in-law after moving back. And just me even being like, babe, like you have a great thing going. Are you sure you want to start all over? Like I was the extreme opposite. Normally I'm the entrepreneur. Yeah, let's go do this thing. But I was like, that's a nice safety net. Are you sure? And so she decided that's whenever she had her pivot moment of, and she would be a great guest for you, but her opposite upbringing of like, hey, we need to go. She grew up of you go work hard, get a college degree, you go work for a company, you work your way up. And she had done that and then got let go. And so she's like, so you can't trust and depend on these other companies. Let's just do it ourselves. And so started growing her own medical practice. And then at the same point during COVID, well, guess what? All the gyms shut down. So what do people need? They need to learn how to do digital marketing for their online business. And so that helped grow the consulting stuff up. And then that's where everything, COVID for us was another big boost year of everything, of matrix moments of things starting to come together. I think for me personally, that was one of those big hockey stick spiritual growth trajectory years of like, you saw some people get away from God, some got a lot closer. I was one of the people that it drew me into on a completely different trajectory of actually wanting to lead my home spiritually for the first time instead of just be a good Christian man, like to actually be the leader. And then entrepreneurially, how things click together is I was doing this digital marketing stuff for fitness and gym owners. My wife's like, well, you think it'd work for the medical practice? Like, yeah, it's the same strategy and stuff. We'll just do it for your medical practice. Did it for that. It was extremely successful. Then we are at kind of a key point as the agency starts growing after working with her and other businesses, end up leaving the app to do same thing. Like I was making amazing money working for a fitness tech company. And same thing, left because I knew that there was more inside of the agency, and started doing that. Had my attorney reach out. Hey, you're doing it for these gyms. You're doing it for your wife's medical practice. Would it work for me? I was like, yeah, it's the same stuff. And so anyway, that just kind of led to evolve to where it became less of this fitness business coach strategist type of a person, into where now we're a full service agency and everything. My wife's medical practice is obviously extremely blessed. We have an IV therapy business that we do. We do short-term real estate. We've got the marketing agency and everything now. And then there's been just these moments along the way just to keep bumping things up.
With everything that you've experienced in your entrepreneurial journey, as you are living your dream lifestyle, what has been your greatest lesson in the midst of just everything? So if we take your entire story, Like, what would you say is like the biggest lesson that you take from all of it?
Knowledge without execution is meaningless. That's a quote that I say all the time. Is I saw that with my father growing up. I had lots of ideas and stuff all the time, and even right now with my businesses. And you think about all the business owners, entrepreneurs, and stuff that you know, they're never short of ideas. It's never like, man, I don't have anything to do. What should I be working on right now? It's like, I got too much to do, and they're almost like sensory overload with decision making fatigue. It's the action is what's going to drive the result. You don't think a good business into existence. It requires action. And I think that one personal frustration I have, especially in like the social media side of entrepreneurialism, everybody thinks, man, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to grab my phone. I'm going to start creating content. I'm going to be a content creator.
Right.
Or I've had like a quick little blip of success, and now I'm going to teach everybody else how to do what I do. And you only have to work a couple hours a week. You're going to build this dream lifestyle. Like I don't, with the people that I trained, the people in Miami that taught me this mindset shift stuff, it requires way more work than what people realize, because that would be tying the two extreme opposites of childhood and then like the Miami guys that were speaking into me. My father, I think one of the things that he thought is that these wealthy people just had a lucky break come to them. They had a good idea and a lucky break happened, because I remember things he would always say is like, yep, all these guys, all they do is they're smoking cigars on yachts and just making good buddy deals with each other. Then whenever I actually started working with those guys, you find out like, no, they're up at 4 a.m. every day training. And then what they're going to do is they're in meetings all day. And then they might, take a nice dinner with their wife. But guess what? They're working till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Sometimes like they're hard workers and they execute at a very high level. They're not just busy, they're productive. They're making things happen. They have strategy and they execute fearlessly with everything that they do. And so if I were to summarize everything, you can have all of the ideas, strategy, plans, and stuff in place. But if you don't take action, you're never going to see any fruit from anything that you have in your head.
Man, that's powerful. That's the perfect summation of the entire story. If you could go back and talk to Sean at the beginning, let's say you can go back, have a conversation with him, knowing everything that you know now, experiencing all that you've experienced, what would you tell him?
You've got to take your spiritual life seriously and lead your family, because that's where I started seeing the true. I learned lessons and quote unquote, we made some extra money and stuff along the way. And God's not your genie. Jesus is not your genie to give you money and stuff. But whenever you are truly seeking him, that means you're truly fully walking out on your purpose. So whenever things are more difficult than they seem, check your obedience and check your focus, because I know that entrepreneurship is a calling. God doesn't call anybody to do something halfway or mediocre. Like he didn't say, just go take half the promised land. Jesus is going to come, but he's just going to die for some sins. It's domination. That's even with our marketing agency, it's marketing domination. It's not about crushing people down, but it's fully executing at your high level so you can serve the type of people that you're called to serve. So I would slap him around and take that stuff seriously, because then last quick story here for you of another growth moment is this actually happened about 3 years ago. So we had the agency, we were here back living in Oklahoma. Wife had her medical practice, and the agency was doing well, but not if you looked at like my hourly work. Like I talked about the amount of hours and stuff that you work, like financially, like, yeah, you're making good money, but you could probably go work as like a CMO at a bigger company and make the exact same amount of money and work half the amount of the hours that you're working now. And I was actually like thinking about shutting the agency down, and I knew in the back of my mind I was being disobedient with something. So 22 years ago, I actually went to college to be a youth minister. And I thought that that's what I was supposed to do, is ministry. We didn't even get to ministry and getting burned up by churches and all of that stuff.
That's part two. That's part two.
But so anyway, I always knew I was supposed to do ministry, but I didn't feel to be a like pastor or anything. I didn't feel that calling inside me, but I'm supposed to be doing more than I'm doing. Well, I've through the gym that I was managing, met my best friend Rob, who him and his father pastor this one of the largest networks of churches in Mexico City. Down there visiting him, doing some ministry stuff, and there's this prophet guy that was there. Never met him before in my life, and he walks up to me like just during this prayer ceremony, and he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know you have the anointing of Joseph on your life. You're going to help kingdom business owners grow their business. You're going to have the strategy and execution that they need to do." He doesn't know that I own a marketing agency. I've never met this guy in my life. And he also doesn't think that I'm thinking about shutting it down. He said, "God's got more for you. You're going to use this and do kingdom ministry and business, tie it all together. But you need to get trained and equipped, and it's going to be a 2-year training program." And I was like, okay. Like I sat there poker face. I was like, okay, I don't want to, I'm going to show this guy anything that he was on. Something like this. I'm thinking in my mind. We go back. My wife knows this stuff, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, like that's exactly what you needed to hear." Go back to church, and that Sunday that we get back, our pastor is like, "Hey, I just want everyone to know something. We're excited. We've been working on for a long time. We're launching a school of ministry here, and we've got 3 different tracks that we're doing. We got pastoral ministry for people that want to be pastors of the local church. We've got a missions track for people that feel called to overseas full-time missions." And he said, "And we have something new that we just came up with. We don't know why. We're also going to do a business track. And this is for kingdom entrepreneurs that want to combine the kingdom and ministry and stuff like that, and business all together. And it's going to be a 2-year training program." So I was like, all right, God, well, that's literally what was just prophesied. So let's start doing this and walking it out. In my mind, I was like, okay, this makes sense why sometimes we use the world to justify spiritual things. This is why the business is doing so bad, is because God needed to show me that I needed to quit the business so I could go do full-time ministry school, because it's a 20-something hour a week program. And so now I was starting to justify why it was doing bad, but it wasn't. It was because I was disobedient. And so as I go to start school, I'm like, I was applying to all of these jobs that I should be well overqualified for, and I couldn't even get an interview. So then talk about like a punch in the gut. I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't even like get a part-time marketing job when I've owned these agencies and done all of this stuff. And then so I ended up hiring like a part-time remote worker to kind of help do some stuff. No, this is the quick version. That's not so quick. Ministry school starts. I'm thinking about closing the business down. I scraped together just enough extra money to cover somebody's part-time work to help me do some stuff. Like, agency's barely profitable at this point. The first 2 weeks of ministry school, we closed like several big clients. Quick version is 3 months or about 4 months into ministry school, the agency has doubled since when it's in. And then through like almost every month for the 2-year program, we're hitting an all-time high each and every single month of sales. I'm working less in the business. I'm bringing on team members. It went from me working by myself with some subcontractors and stuff to where now the agency that was 3 years ago. And now we've got a staff of 10 full-time people that work for us, work with dozens of clients and everything. And the thing that God showed me is why that took so long was he said, "I couldn't bless you because you weren't fully obeying. I told you to do ministry school and do ministry. Once you finally obeyed, now I can fully bless you." Because he's still a good father. He still wants to give us things, but think about with you and your kids. It's like, you still love them. You want to give them the gifts, but man, if you're acting out and you're not obeying, I can't give you everything I want to give you. I'm still going to make sure you got, food, water, shelter, and stuff like that, but I'm not going to buy you extra presents and stuff like that. So once I fully was walking in that obedience, it's literally like just been open heaven and floodgates. And so once I did that and I obeyed, that's when it broke open. Now my wife joking, he's like, "I wish you would have obeyed 20 years ago. Think about where we would have been then." But things have just honestly just exploded since then, because I felt like the last thing that I was still kind of holding back, that I wasn't fully walking in that obedience for.
Man, that is amazing. And I want to pull out, just for the listeners, right? Just that radical accountability, like radical self-accountability, to where most of the time, most people do that, where they'll try to rationalize like, well, this is why God did it this way. And it's like, the reality is you just aren't doing your part. The reality is you're being disobedient. The reality is like, you're not handling your part of things. And so I want to kind of pull that out, because I'm wondering how many people are listening to you share your experience right now. They're frustrated. They're trying to figure out why things aren't moving faster and everything like that. And they have an area that they know they should be doing something better in. They have an area where God told them, do this. And they're like, I'll get to that later. Like, and they're wondering why things aren't moving the way that they should. And just the last thing I want to pull out, just from everything that you shared as we wrap up, everything that you shared was from a lens of serving your family and serving other people. And I pull that out just because for people who want to start a business and want to build something significant, build a career, whatever it is very easy to get caught up in the aesthetic of it, the title, the salary, the money, the access, all that. And that's cool. But everything in the way in which you describe your entire story had to do with, hey, I got kids on the way. We got to make this work because I need to take care of my family. Hey, I'm leading my family well spiritually because I need to start taking that seriously. Like, nothing you said had anything to do with, well, you know, I'm trying to hit these 6-7 figures. I'm trying to get this deal, none of that. And like, I appreciate that just because that is what it sounds like when you are truly purpose driven. That's what it sounds like when you recognize and understand your call. And so I commend you, sir. Like, Sean, I commend you, and I'm so glad that we're connected, man. And I'm glad I didn't even know all that. Like, I knew some parts, but like I didn't know all of that. And like that just like put a battery in my own back of like, man, that's what it looks like to simply, at least how I use it in Ephesians 4:1, live a life worthy of your calling. Simple as that. So I appreciate you sharing, man.
Thanks so much, man. It's an honor to connect with you, with your audience, and hopefully like something resonates with somebody. And don't let this would be my challenge and thing to the audience. Don't let it be just another podcast that you listen to or another thing to where you got more knowledge and you didn't go execute on anything. Because if not, you're going to be the exact same place that you were, 5 years from now, you're going to be the exact same place that you are now unless you start taking action.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you all for checking out this episode. If this helped you, if this provided value to your life, share this with one person. And as Sean said, execute on this. Make one better decision this week, this entire month, as a result of what you learned here in this conversation. I appreciate you, and always remember that your dream is possible as long as you are willing to grow for it. We'll see you all in the next episode.